Very strong words from Prime Minister Narendra Modi from the ramparts of the Red Fort on the 78th Independence Day. While he gave out the roadmap to make India a developed country by 2047, Viksit Bharat at 2047 was the Prime Minister's agenda, but he also spoke out very strongly against those who indulge in crimes against women. He spoke of the punishment and harsh punishment that needs to be given to those. Phansi par latakna hoga, Prime Minister's exact words. And he said, those who indulge in crimes against women, while those crimes are highlighted, when the punishment is given to those people, that's buried somewhere in the inside pages. That's not headlines. Those crimes, that punishment must also be highlighted so that that punishment acts like a deterrent. In the wake of that heinous gang rape and murder, alleged gang rape and murder of that young lady doctor in Kolkata, this statement of Prime Minister Narendra Modi becomes extremely, extremely significant. He also warned against pessimists who are out to derail India's growth story. India has a remarkable growth story, a developed nation by 2047 that the Prime Minister spoke of. And he said there are elements who are out to derail that. You see the Prime Minister's cavalcade, while it's come out of the Lahori gate of the Red Fort, it will stop where the students are. That's almost a tradition now. 2,000 cadets of the Army Wing, the Naval Wing and the Air Wing of the National Cadet Corps with My Bharat very prominently written. They are waiting for the Prime Minister. And usually the Prime Minister stops, interacts with those children. He spends a lot of time with youngsters. And it seems, yes, the Prime Minister's cavalcade is now stopping where the students are. This is also where those 6,000 special invitees, the Olympians, the medal winners, the Indian contingent winners, they were all on the ramparts of the Red Fort. But the 6,000 special invitees, which include the drone didis, the Lakpati didis, the Anganwadi workers, the students who benefit from the science and technology programs and schemes of the government, all of them are right here, and the Prime Minister would be interacting with these students, perhaps take a picture with these students, and the students are usually very excited about this. But some of the main points that the Prime Minister referred to: make India a defense manufacturing hub. Indian standards should be seen as global standards. 500 gigawatts renewable energy, 2030, a very ambitious program. And he says world leaders, when he talks about it, they're quite stunned to see the huge targets that India has. But he said amongst the G20 countries, India is the only country that's met those targets and kept those targets. And Prime Minister now walking amongst the National Cadet Corps, NCC cadets, the Army Wing, the Navy Wing and the Air Wing, interacting with them. The children supremely excited about this, by and large, when the Prime Minister asks them what did they understand, what did they want. The Prime Minister also spoke of suggestions that he had sought from across the world. What is India's vision of how India can be a developed country? And he got a lot of feedback. He also spoke of the achievements of his government in the past 10 years, when he said 18,000 villages have now been electrified, 2.5 crore homes have electricity. Swachh Bharat mission, how they're moving forward on that. And Swachh Bharat is something that the Prime Minister is very proud of, something that he spoke of in 2014. And it is this generation, the students, the next gen or Gen Z, that's actually taking it forward, because they are the ones who are spurring this change. They are the ones, the force behind this change for a cleaner India. Jal Jeevan mission, again something that the Prime Minister emphasized on. 12 crore families now have tap waters, and once again the Prime Minister's emphasis was that those who are in the rear, okay, that's the Prime Minister interacting with students, and the students excited, waving to him. The students clapping as the Prime Minister walks amongst them. In the past, of course, students have also taken out their mobile phones for a selfie. Well, some students seem to be doing that even today. He spoke of how quickly India was able to
under the sky of our nation's
administer vaccines, the corona vaccine, one of the most difficult phases in the history of the world and of course our country. He spoke, when he spoke of our achievements, he spoke of the surgical strikes and also the Balakot airstrikes. So students have their mobile phones out. This is history and the students very, very excited about taking pictures of the Prime Minister and a selfie with the Prime Minister. But some of the significant points that the Prime Minister spoke of include having a uniform civil code in our country. Strong words from the Prime Minister when he said that the current civil code is communal. In the 78th year of India's independence, there must be a healthy debate, a big debate, wide debate on what the new laws should be. Laws that divide have no place in a modern society is what Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, emphasizing the need for a secular civil code. So his interaction with students is not restricted just to the first row. He's gone all the way up to the last row where these 2,000 students, 2,000 of the NCC, National Cadet Corps, Army Wing, Navy Wing and Air Wing are. And these students are selected from the NCC camp that's organized across the country, and the best contingents, the best performing schools are selected. And once again, in the last row, he walks to the center, perhaps for a picture. And there is a mic there, it seems. Will the Prime Minister be speaking, or was the mic there only for the Bharat Mata Ki Jai slogan that was to be that was chanted when the Prime Minister was on the ramparts of the Red Fort? Yep. He is not speaking here to these students clearly, except that informal interaction that is taking place.
बेहद उत्साहित और जोरदार तरीके से लगातार उनका स्वागत कर रहे हैं। जब प्रधानमंत्री युवाओं का आह्वान करते हैं कि विकसित भारत बनाने के लिए रात दिन प्रयास में जुट जाओ, तो युवाओं को भी भरोसा होता है कि वो ये कर सकते हैं। आप में कुछ विलक्षण प्रतिभा है, ये समझने के लिए प्रेरणा
More excited students reaching out to shake hands with the Prime Minister. The initial lot was very well disciplined, because that's the instruction that was initially given to students, that they will continue to sit in their places. The Prime Minister will walk in the aisles, but the Prime Minister walked right in the heart of where all the students are and interacted with the students. And now increasingly a large number of students, they are reaching out to shake hands with the Prime Minister with their mobile phones out, some of them taking pictures with him and chanting Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Bharat Mata Ki Jai is something that makes all cadets of the National Cadet Corps very excited wherever it's chanted, whether in school or in college, at the NCC Day Parade, the Republic Day Parade, or various other parades and marching when the contingents are called out at various National Cadet Corps camps. It's again been one of the key result areas, key focus areas of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to increase the reach of National Cadet Corps. Do keep in mind, those with a C certificate get a preference for getting into the armed forces, whether it's in the Army or the Air Wing or the Naval Wing. So these are images of the Prime Minister. First he interacted with NCC cadets. Now he walks to where the NSS volunteers are. He'll interact with NSS volunteers, he'll interact with Anganwadi workers, he'll be interacting with drone Didis. It's all very well charted out, because these are all achievers that the Prime Minister is reaching out to before he reaches out to the audience that is there. Listen in to the excitement at the Red Fort.
As we celebrate our Independence Day, we not only foreground history, hope, and our home, We foreground the present. We foreground that which empowers life in our home.
And interacting with the people who've been there since early this morning. Remember, the Prime Minister reached there at 7:15. People had to reach there by 6:15 in the morning. It was drizzling initially. It started raining, but braving that rain, people got there in time. And the Prime Minister spoke of the people being a part of India's development journey. India's journey to be a Viksit Bharat, sought suggestions from across the country. And what were some of those suggestions that the Prime Minister spoke of? एक समृद्ध विकसित भारत के लिए, the suggestions that came in to make India the skill capital of the world, global manufacturing hub, global universities in India. Instead of going overseas to study, let people come to India and study. Indian media having a global outreach. Youth and skill, India's skill development being first choice of the world. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Shri Ann, Indian superfood on every dining table. He spoke of judicial reforms. Let me now throw this open and bring in our guests on our special broadcast. I have Rajat Sethi, political commentator, joining us. Sanjay Jha, political analyst, joining us. We also have Rashid Kidwai joining us on this broadcast. And I want to begin with the burning topic. Something that the entire country has been talking about is crimes against women. Rashid Kidwai, when the Prime Minister speaks of stringent punishment, harsh punishment, and punishment being made known to everybody in the wake of what happened in Kolkata, what do you make of the Prime Minister's statement कि लटकना पड़ेगा for crimes against women, फांसी पर लटकना पड़ेगा?
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. I'm very happy Independence Day to all my fellow countrymen and panelists. What Prime Minister has spoken is spoken for the entire country. But these things are there, they needs to be implemented, and that's where federalism comes in, and uniformity in terms of application of whatever Prime Minister is saying. We have had a lot of past instances of crime against women, of very ugly, of very sordid kind of crimes, but states have interpreted it differently. So what the center needs to do is to have a kind of uniform, consistent policy and have an infrastructure, because we know that law and order is a state subject. Now, how do you negotiate with that? What happens in so a lot of things, Gaurav, today is not a day to talk about it, but they become highly politicized. We need to cut that out, and in that, ruling party has a role to play. They have to take a lead. If states that are governed by ruling party, ruling coalition, if they set an example, then the opposition will be compelled to, and there will be public opinion also supporting it.
Because Rajat Sethi, we saw this agitation and mass agitation during Nirbhaya in Delhi and now Abhaya in Bengal. The outrage is there. The outrage doesn't lead to concrete outcomes, and this is where the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita or the Dand Sanhita clearly will have to play a much, much bigger role. The Prime Minister spoke of judicial reforms and perhaps time-bound punishment for the guilty. Rajat Sethi.
To your homes by our camera people and our team here.
I think you're on mute, Rajat. Rajat, my request to you, Mr. Sethi, is if you could unmute yourself. Go ahead, sir.
I think Prime Minister Modi is one person who takes challenges directly. He has consistently been addressing societal challenges that we all as a nation face. And I believe that crime against women has to be among the top of the list when it comes to some of the mega challenges that we have as a society before us. Just on the eve of the Independence Day, we saw what happened in Kolkata. The crime scene, the RJ Kar hospital, was vandalized by the goons, and the state administration, the police administration, were mute spectators, especially at a site where you would assume or presume that there would be a lot of security, etc. But the unfortunate events that unfolded, it shows just a very, very sorry state of affairs, and the amount of distance that we need to cover to make India a proper place where the rule of the law, crime against women, etc., are dealt with iron hand. And I'm happy that the Prime Minister took this sobering note right up to the ramparts of the Red Fort and, made a clarion call from there and said in no uncertain terms that the harshest possible punishment has to be meted out in full public glare. We need to make crime against women unthinkable by all the notorious elements of our society. And I think if he leads it, action has to now follow. We need to ensure that our investigating agencies finish the investigation in a time-bound manner. Our courts deliver the justice and do not prolong this by giving dates after dates. Ensure that we come out of that mold where it takes years to settle cases.
He spoke of judicial reforms. He spoke of the roadmap, Sanjay Jha. Absolutely. Sanjay Jha, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke of the roadmap for a Viksit Bharat. He spoke of judicial reforms. He spoke of time-bound justice delivery system. And your comments on what the Prime Minister said on crimes against women, a very strong statement. And in a moment from now, we'll play out that statement of Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the ramparts of the Red Fort, especially when he spoke of punishment should be severe and punishment should be visible. And that punishment should be a deterrent, sir.
Gaurav, good morning. And it's always good to be on your show. And to all the panelists and all the wonderful viewers of India today, a very happy Independence Day. One of the things that I believe in is Gandhiji, and Gandhiji spoke the truth. So I'm just going to skip all this hyperbole of Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India's speech. In my opinion, he is extremely hypocritical, Prime Minister. Since he speaks on crime against women through your very popular program, India Today, my question to India's Prime Minister, since you spoke, Prime Minister, on crimes against women, Mr. Modi, I have two questions of you. Where were you when India was celebrating its 75th Independence Day celebrations 2 years ago, and Bilkis Banu, gang raped during the Gujarat 2002 riots, had to witness the humiliation of her 11 rapists being released? And you, dear Prime Minister, were silent. My second question to you, Prime Minister, is that today we have heard the entire country is going to hang its head in shame and a huge emotional disappointment because we just got the news that Vinesh Fogart, who gave her life and soul for India to win a medal at the Olympics in Paris, her appeal for a review of a silver medal has been rejected. I want to ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, through the channel of India Today, when she was protesting on the streets of Delhi for justice against one of your leaders who headed a sports federation for months on end, along with fellow athletes, why were you quiet, Mr. Prime Minister? Just because you got a platform and you can speak whatever you like, you think the people of this country can be fooled, Mr. Prime Minister? If you can address these two questions, I will be extremely grateful.
You've raised your questions, in a moment from now. We hopefully will have Charu Pragya of the Bharatiya Janata Party joining us and responding to the points you've raised. But we're looking at these images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he spent considerable time with the NCC cadets. He spent considerable time with the NSS volunteers and with the audiences that were there near the Red Fort since early this morning, listening to the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister spoke of the suggestions he'd got for a Viksit Bharat. And very interesting, some of those suggestions that came. The Prime Minister, of course, also spoke of Sainkado Saal Ki Gulami, hundreds of years of foreign rule in India, of invaders and foreign rule in India. But he said that we were only 40 crore when we threw out the foreign yoke, only 40 crore then, 140 crore now. So India's power has increased manifold. And this power to be harnessed to make India a Viksit Bharat by 2047. That was the Prime Minister's agenda and the motto and the theme of the 78th Independence Day parade. As we look at these images of the Prime Minister interacting with these students and then, of course, heading back. I once again want to bring in Rajat Sethi as we wait for Charu Pragya of the Bharatiya Janata Party to join us in a moment. The Prime Minister was also deeply concerned. But I once again want to come back to that point. I want to come back to that point about women's safety. Listen to Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the very important aspect of women's safety and those who indulge in crimes against women, these heinous crimes, फांसी पर लटकना पड़ेगा. Listen in.
और मैं आज लाल किले से फिर बार एक अपनी पीड़ा व्यक्त करना चाहता हूं. एक समाज के नाते हमें गंभीरता से सोचना होगा कि हमारी माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों के प्रति जो अत्याचार हो रहे हैं, उसके प्रति देश का आक्रोश है, जन सामान्य का आक्रोश है. इस आक्रोश को मैं महसूस कर रहा हूं. इसको देश को, समाज को, हमारी राज्य सरकारों को गंभीरता से लेना होगा. महिलाओं के विरुद्ध अपराधों की जल्द से जल्द जांच हो, राक्षसी कृत्य करने वालों को जल्द से जल्द कड़ी सजा हो. वो समाज में विश्वास पैदा करने के लिए जरूरी है. मैं ये भी बताना चाहूंगा कि जब बलात्कार की या महिलाओं पर अत्याचार की घटनाएं घटती हैं तो उसकी बहुत चर्चा होती है, बहुत प्रचार होता है, मीडिया में छाया रहता है. लेकिन जब ऐसे राक्षसी मनोवृत्ति व्यक्ति को सजा होती है तो वो खबरों में कहीं नजर नहीं आती, एक कोने में कहीं पड़ा रहता है. अब समय की मांग है कि जिनको सजा होती है उसकी व्यापक चर्चा हो, ताकि ऐसा पाप करने वालों को भी डर पैदा हो कि ये पाप करने की हालत ये होती है कि फांसी पर लटकना पड़ता है. और मुझे लगता है कि डर पैदा करना बहुत जरूरी है.
Special coverage on the 78th Independence Day from the ramparts of the Red Fort. The Prime Minister also spoke about the need for a secular civil code. He said the current civil code is communal, it discriminates, and it's time to remove laws that divide. They have no place in modern society. Listen in.
हमारे देश में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बार बार यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड को लेकर जो चर्चा की है, अनेक बार आदेश दिए हैं, क्योंकि देश का एक बहुत बड़ा वर्ग मानता है और उसमें सच्चाई भी है कि जिस सिविल कोड को हम लेकर के जी रहे हैं वो सिविल कोड सचमुच में तो एक प्रकार का कम्युनल सिविल कोड है, भेदभाव करने वाला सिविल कोड है. ऐसे सिविल कोड से जब संविधान के 75 वर्ष मना रहे हैं और संविधान की भावना भी जो हमें कहती है करने के लिए, देश की सुप्रीम कोर्ट भी हमें कहती है करने के लिए, और तब जो संविधान निर्माताओं का सपना था उस सपने को पूरा करना हम सबका दायित्व है. और मैं मानता हूं इस गंभीर विषय पर देश में चर्चा हो, व्यापक चर्चा हो, हर कोई अपने विचारों को लेकर के आए और उन कानूनों को, जो कानून धर्म के आधार पर देश को बांटते, जो ऊंच नीच का कारण बन जाते हैं, ऐसे कानूनों को आधुनिक समाज में कोई स्थान नहीं हो सकता है. और इसलिए मैं तो कहूंगा अब समय की मांग है कि देश में एक सेकुलर सिविल कोड हो. हमने कम्युनल सिविल कोड में 75 साल बिताए हैं, अब हमें सेक्युलर सिविल कोड की तरफ जाना होगा और तब जाकर के देश में धर्म के आधार पर जो भेदभाव हो रहे हैं, सामान्य नागरिक को जो दूरी महसूस होती है, उससे हमें मुक्ति मिलेगी.
Rashid Kidwai, time for a wide debate on a secular civil code, a common civil code. You heard the Prime Minister.
Yeah, Gaurav, it is very much required. Right-based, gender parity-based laws are required. Key point is uniformity of it. There cannot be exemptions of communities and people, etc. If it's uniform civil code, it has to be uniform civil code, and that's where a lot of political problems come in. I think Prime Minister has rightly pointed out there is need to talk, there is need to debate, there is need to engage the stakeholders. Remember, there are several countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Turkey, etc. They all have UCC, Uniform Civil Code. So why not? Yes. I mean, these countries are quite diverse. So why not India? India should also have that.
Rajat Sethi, 30 seconds. Time for a common civil code that's not communal, but there should be no exemption for anyone. Or should there be some exemption for tribal laws in the Uniform Civil Code?
Well, I think a uniform civil code in its entirety might be hard to sort of, keeping various diversity, especially on from some of our tribal communities, etc., would pose a challenge. But I think careful deliberations with those communities, reaching out to those tribal communities, might as well, bring consensus around the Uniform Civil Code. I mean, so far it's a very perverse code wherein it's divided on religious lines. It's of course divided on various other regional lines as well.
Okay.
All of that needs to go. We have lived enough number of decades now. We've matured as a society. We are a nation which has progressed and can debate these issues which our forefathers had written in our constitution.
Absolutely.
In the principles.
They wrote about it in 1947, 48, 49 till 1950. We need to move forward on these lines. We're a progressive society. Sanjay, I have sadly lost my audio link with you, but we'll try and reestablish that link, and we will continue this debate forward in the days and weeks ahead. That is all I have for you on this special broadcast. Many thanks for watching.